Hi, sixth graders. I'm so excited to finally start reading The Westing Game by Ellen Raskin. I cannot wait to read this with you guys. It's such a good story. I really wish we were in class to read this, but this is the next best thing. So you all have downloaded the PDF version onto your iPad. So what the next step is going to be is when you're listening to this video of me reading it, it's very important that you follow along with the PDF version. So a lot of your iPads can do the split screen. So make one half of your screen the PDF and the other half the audio. If you don't have that split screen option, just have me reading in the background and then have the PDF on front of your iPad. So that way you can follow along because that's really important for comprehension. The other thing that I want to mention to you is because this is a video, you can pause this whenever you need to. So pause it if you want to annotate, if you want to look something up, if you want to email me a question as this is going along, asking me things about the book that you don't understand. But please, it's really important that you do annotate with this book. So I might say, let's put a question mark here, or let's underline this, or what's this vocab word here. So, okay, let's get started. I'm so excited. Okay. Chapter 1, Sunset Towers. The sun sets in the west. Just about everyone knows that. But Sunset Towers faced east. Strange. Sunset Towers faced east and had no towers. This glittery, glassy apartment house stood alone on the Lake Michigan shore 5 stories high. 5 empty stories high. Then one day, it happened to be the 4th of July, a most uncommon-looking delivery boy rode around town, slipping letters under the doors of the chosen tenants-to-be. The letters were signed Barney Northrop. The delivery boy was 62 years old, and there was no such person as Barney Northrop. That's a little weird. How can these letters be signed by a Barney Northrop if there is no such person as him? So I would annotate right now and put a little line with a question mark. How can all these letters be signed Barney Northrop if there is no such person as that? So that's kind of our first mystery, and we're only really on the first page. Okay, you may notice now that there are some dots going along on the pages. And what these dots mean, it's usually sets something else apart. So above Dear Lucky One, you'll see some dots, which means something else has come up. So in this case, it's going to be a letter. So it's going to tell us what those letters were that were just delivered. Okay, here we go. Dear Lucky One. Here it is, the apartment you've always dreamed of at a rent you can't afford. In the newest, most luxurious building on Lake Michigan, Sunset Towers. Picture windows in every room, uniformed doorman, maid service, central air conditioning, high-speed elevator, exclusive neighborhood near excellent schools, etc., etc. You have to see it to believe it. But these unbelievably elegant apartments will be shown by appointment only. So hurry, there are only a few left. Call me now at 276-7474 for this once-in-a-lifetime offer. Your servant, Barney Northrop. P.S. I am also renting ideal space for doctor's office and lobby, coffee shop with entrance from parking lot, high-class restaurant on entire top floor. 6 letters were delivered. Just 6. 6 appointments were made, and one by one, family by family, talk. Barney Northrop led the tours around and about Sunset Towers. Now, here's a weird part too. If I was to be selling apartments in an apartment building, I would put these flyers out all over the place. I would send them out to everybody. I would be posting them everywhere on social media sites. I know they don't have social media now, but you would be putting this letter everywhere you can. If you have 6 apartments to rent and only give these letters to 6 people, the chances of all those 6 people are renting those apartments are very slim. So that's another thing to put a question mark by, because that's a little odd that you have these 6 apartments and you're only giving letters to 6 people. Even if people have one apartment to rent, they send out tons and tons of letters because not everybody wants an apartment, not everyone can afford it. So that's a weird thing right there. So I would put a question mark next to your annotation or next to the text and put down why only 6 letters went out. That's weird. So let's keep reading. Take a look at that glass. One-way glass, Barney Northrup said. You can see out. Nobody can see in. Looking up, the Wexlers, the first appointment of the day, were blinded by the blast of morning sun that flashed off the face of the building. See those chandeliers? Crystal, Barney Northrup said, slicking his black mustache and straightening his hand-painted tie in the lobby mirrored wall. How about this carpeting? 3 inches thick. Gorgeous, Mrs. Wexler replied, clutching her husband's arm as her high heels wobbled in the deep plush pile. She, too, managed an approving glance in the mirror before the elevator door opened. You're really in luck, Barney Northrup said. There's only 1 apartment left, but you'll love it. It was meant for you. He flung open the door to 3D. Now, is this breathtaking or is this breathtaking? Mrs. Wexler gasped. It was breathtaking, all right. 2 walls of the living floor were floor-to-ceiling glass. Following Barney Northrup's lead, she oohed and ahed her joyous ways through the entire apartment. Her trailing husband was less enthusiastic. What's this, a bedroom or a closet? Jake Wexler asked, peering into the last room. It's a bedroom, of course, his wife replied. Looks like a closet. Oh, Jake, this apartment is perfect for us, just perfect. Grace Wexler argued in a whining coo. The 3rd bedroom was a trifle small, but it would do fine just for Turtle. And think what it means having your office in the lobby, Jake. No more driving to and from work, no more mowing the lawn or shoveling snow. Let me remind you, Barney Northrup said, the rent here is cheaper than what your old house cost in upkeep. How would he know that? Jake wondered. That is a weird question. Maybe it was just a general statement like this is going to cost less than your other house, but still it's a weird comment to make because you don't know what the cost of the current house that these people are living in are. So maybe that was just a sales tactic, but still a little weird. Grace stood before the front window where, beyond the road, beyond the trees, Lake Michigan lay calm and glistening. A lake view. Just wait until those so-called friends of hers with their classy houses see this place. The furniture would have to be reupholstered. No, she'd buy new furniture, beige velvet. And she'd have stationery made, blue with a decal edge, her name and fancy address in swirling type across the top. Grace Winsler Wexler, Sunset Towers on the lake shore. Now, you will notice again that there are some dots going along the page right now. What that means is usually it will refer to a different point of view. So you may be leaving one point of view and now someone else is talking, or it's the same day, the same time, and something's happening in a different apartment or in a different section of the town. So keep that in mind too. When you see those dots, it usually just means that there's another point of view coming along. Not every tenant was quite as overjoyed as Grace Winsler Wexler. Arriving in the late afternoon, Sidel Pulaski looked up and saw only the dim, warped reflections of treetops and drifting clouds in the glass face of Sunset Towers. You're really in luck, Barney Northrup said for the 6th and last time. There's only 1 apartment left, but you'll love it. It was meant for you. We've heard that before. Barney Northrup said that in the first appointment too. So this, again, is just a good sales tactic. If you have an item in the store and there's 1 left and people are like, should I buy it or not? You may say, as the salesperson, oh, well, there's so many people looking at this item. And that just makes people go, oh, if a lot of people are looking at this, I want it. So that's his kind of sales tactic to sell these apartments like, oh, this is the last one left. It was meant for you. So there's nothing else you can really look at. So this is kind of what he's trying to say. So that's just being a good salesman. He flung open the door to a one-bedroom apartment in the rear. Now, is that breathtaking or is that breathtaking? Not especially, Sidel Pulaski replied as she blinked into the rays of the summer sun setting behind the parking lot. So Sidel Pulaski's apartment faces the parking lot, whereas the Wexler's apartment, the one they looked at, faced over Lake Michigan. She had waited all these years for a place of her own, and here it was, in an elegant building where rich people live. But she wanted a lake view. The front apartments are taken, Barney Northrop said. Besides, the rent's too steep for a secretary's salary. Believe me, you get the same luxuries here at a third of the price. At least the view from the side window was pleasant. Are you sure nobody can see in? Sidel Pulaski asked. Absolutely, Barney Northrop said, following her suspicious stare to the mansion on the north cliff. That's just the old Westinghouse up there. It hasn't been lived in for 15 years. Well, I'll have to think it over. I have 20 people begging for this apartment, Barney Northrop said, lying through his buck teeth. Take it or leave it. I'll take it. Whoever, whatever else he was, Barney Northrop was a good salesman. In one day, he had rented all of Sunset Towers to the people whose names were already printed on a mailbox in an alcove off the lobby. Let me read that sentence again. In one day, he had rented all of Sunset Towers to the people whose names were already printed on the mailboxes in an alcove off the lobby. Already printed? It's kind of like this Barney Northrop person who we've just learned doesn't really exist, but this person already knew that these people were going to rent these apartments because their names were already printed on the mailboxes in the apartment lobby. So that's a little suspicious too. I would definitely put a question mark next to that because that's a little weird. And here are the people who have rented. Office, Dr. Wexler. Lobby, Theodorakis Coffee Shop. 2C, F. Bombach. 2D, Theodorakis. 3C, S. Pulaski. 3D, Wexler. 4C, Who. 4D, J.J. Ford. 5. Shin Hu's Restaurant. Who were these people? These specially selected tenants. They were mothers and fathers and children. A dressmaker, a secretary, an inventor, a doctor, a judge. Oh, and yes, one was a bookie, one was a burglar, one was a bomber, and one was a mistake. Barney Northrop had rented one of the apartments to the wrong person. So, in this first chapter already, we're learning that all these people moved into Sunset Towers. They were specially selected because they only 6 families got an invitation. All 6 families rented an apartment from them through, I think, a lot of a good sales tactic by this Barney Northrop person. But if you look at who was rented, we have like mothers and fathers and children. Okay, normal. A dressmaker, a secretary, an inventor, a doctor, a judge. Okay, all normal people to rent an apartment. But then it says someone was a bookie. So a bookie is somebody who takes kind of illegal bets. So they would take an illegal bet from somebody, mark it down in a book, hence bookie, and then if they won or lost, they would be in charge of either giving the person the money that they won or collecting the money if the person lost. And if that person lost a lot of money, sometimes, or if that person had to pay a lot of money because they lost, sometimes a bookie would go to some extreme measures to make sure they get their money back. We're talking about like tens of thousands of dollars. Sometimes it could get really high depending on the type of bookie you were. But so that kind of person lives in this apartment. One was a burglar, not a good person to have live in an apartment with you, a bomber, again, not a good person, and a mistake. So right here is another first clue. Definitely put a question mark or put who are these people, annotate that on your iPad. Who are these people? Because now we have to figure out who each of these people are, especially the mistake. Why would there be a mistake when you're renting an apartment? So we're going to have to keep reading. Okay, chapter 2, Ghosts or Worse. On September 1st, the chosen ones and the mistake moved in. A wire fence had been erected along the north side of the building. On it, a sign warned, "No trespassing, property of the Westing estate." The newly paved driveway curved sharply and doubled back on itself rather than breach the city-county line. Sunset Towers stood on the far edge of town. Okay, so if you think about Park Ridge, you have Uptown, and that's kind of the central part of Park Ridge, where you have the Pickwick and the library, the ice cream shop, all those restaurants. That's Uptown. Where Mary's seat is kind of on the edge of the town. We are still in Park Ridge, but we're very, very close to Chicago. So that's kind of where this Sunset Towers is. It's on the edge of the town. So if you picture like where Mary's seat is, and then a couple blocks away is Chicago, that's kind of where Sunset Towers is. On September 2nd, so the day after, on September 2nd, Shin Hu's restaurant, specializing in authentic Chinese cuisine, held its grand opening. Only 3 people came. It was indeed an exclusive neighborhood, too exclusive for Mr. Hu. However, the less expensive coffee shop that opened on the parking lot was kept busy serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner to tenants ordering up, and to workers from nearby Westingtown. So Mr. Hu, who owns the Chinese restaurant, is not very happy right now because his restaurant is on the top level of Sunset Towers, and it's not really accessible to the public. Not a lot of people know about it yet, so only 3 people showed up to eat on the day that it opened. However, the coffee shop that's on the bottom floor of Sunset Towers has a door that's open to the parking lot. So not only can people in Sunset Towers order from their breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but people around the neighborhood can. It's very easy to park your car, run in, grab some coffee, and then leave. So that is always busy. It's kind of more accessible to people. People can see it a little bit easier. And not everyone wants Chinese every day, but coffee and pastries and lunch and dinner are a little bit different. So the coffee shop on the first floor is doing very well. Now, it did say from the tenants ordering up. Okay, so when you order up, it's because the coffee shop is on the first floor, and if you live above it, your order is going to go up. So you're ordering up to your apartment. Okay. Sunset Towers was a quiet, well-run building, and except for the grumbling Mr. Hu, the people who lived there seemed content. Neighbor greeted neighbor with good morning or good evening, or a friendly smile, and grappled with small problems behind closed doors. The big problems were yet to come. So that is foreshadowing. So definitely underline that. Write foreshadowing, F-O-R-E, and then shadowing. That shows us that there's definitely some problems that are going to start coming up in Sunset Towers. Now it was the end of October. A cold, raw wind whipped dead leaves about the ankles of the 4 people grouped in the Sunset Towers driveway, but not one of them shivered. Not yet. The stocky, broad-shouldered man in the doorman's uniform, standing with feet spread, fist on hips, was Sandy McSuthers. The 2 slim, trim high school seniors, shielding their eyes against the stinging chill, were Theo Theodorakis and Doug Hu. The small, wiry man pointing to the house on the hill was Otis Amber, the 62-year-old delivery boy. They faced north, gaping like statues cast in the moment of discovery, until Turtle Wexler, her kite tail of a braid flying behind her, raced her bicycle into the driveway. Look, look, there's smoke! There's smoke coming from the chimney of the Westinghouse. So, a little note about your predictions. A lot of you, the week before spring break, had mentioned that you thought Turtle Wexler was a boy, where in fact Turtle Wexler is a girl. So Turtle, I will tell you right now, is her nickname, and we're going to have to keep reading to find out what her real name is and why her nickname is Turtle, but it is a girl. And she saw, like everyone else, smoke coming from the Westinghouse, which is ironic because earlier Barney Northrop said that people haven't lived in there over 15 years, so why would there be smoke coming from the house right now? The others had seen it. What did she think they were looking at anyway? Turtle leaned on the handlebars, panting for breath. Sunset Towers was near excellent schools, as Barney Northrop had promised, but the junior high was 4 miles away. Do you think Old Man Westing's up there? Nah, Otis Amber, the old delivery boy, answered. Nobody's seen him for years. Supposed to be living on a private island in the South Seas, he is. But most folks say he's dead. Long gone dead. They say his corpse is still up there in that big old house. They say his body is sprawled out on a fancy oriental rug, and his flesh is rotting off those mean bones, and maggots are creeping in his eye sockets and crawling out of his nose holes. The delivery boy added a high-pitched he to the gruesome details. Now someone shivered. It was Turtle. Serves him right, Sandy said. At other times a cheery fellow, the doorman often complained bitterly about having been fired from his job of 20 years in the Westing paper mill. But somebody must be up there. Somebody alive, that is. He pushed back the gold-braided cap and squinted at the house through his steel-framed glasses as if expecting the curling smoke to write the answer in the autumn air. Maybe it's those kids again. Nah, couldn't be. What kids? The 3 kids wanted to know. Why, those 2 unfortunate fellows from Westingtown. What unfortunate fellows? The 3 heads twisted from the doorman to the delivery boy. Doug Who ducked Turtle's whizzing braid. Touch her precious pigtail, even by accident, and she'll kick you in the shins, the brat. He couldn't chance an injury to his legs, not with the big meet coming. The track star began to jog in place. So we learned a couple things here. Doug Who is a track star, and he has a big meet coming up, and that Turtle has these braids that she wears, and if somebody touches them, even by accident, she kicks them in the shin. So Turtle has a little mean streak to her. Horrible. It was horrible, Otis Amber said with a shudder that sent the loose straps of his leather aviator's helmet swinging about his long, thin face. Come to think of it, it happened exactly 1 year ago tonight, on Halloween. What happened? Theo Theodorakis asked impatiently. He was late for work in the coffee shop. Tell them, Otis, Sandy urged. The delivery boy stroked the gray stubble on his pointed chin. Seems it all started with a bet. Somebody bet them $1 they couldn't stay in the spooky house 5 minutes. 1 measly buck. The poor kids hardly got through those French doors on this side of the Westinghouse when they came tearing out like they was being chased by a ghost. Chased by a ghost, or worse. Or worse. Turtle forgot her throbbing toothache. Theo Theodorakis and Doug Who, older and more worldly wise, exchanged winks, but stayed to hear the rest of the story. So Doug and Theo are in high school, and they were like, okay, like they're winking at each other, like, this story can't be true. They must be making it up to scare Turtle because she's in junior high. Turtle's actually about your age in like 6th or 7th grade. So they're like, okay. I think they kind of believe it, but maybe they don't want to because they think they're too cool. One fellow ran out crazy like, screaming his head off. He never stopped screaming till he hit the rocks at the bottom of the cliff. The other fella hasn't said but 2 words since. Something about purple. Sandy helped him out. Purple waves. Otis Amber nodded sadly. Yep, the poor fella just sits in the state asylum saying, purple waves, over and over again, and his scared eyes keep staring at his hands. You see, when he came running out of the Westinghouse, his hands was dripping with warm, red blood. Now all three shivered. Poor kid, the doorman said. All that pain and suffering for a dollar bet. Make it $2 for each minute I stay in there and you're on, Turtle said. So these Sandy and Otis are telling a story of when two boys bet each other. I bet you can go into the Westinghouse for 5 minutes, and if you can, I'll give you $1. And they're like, a measly dollar? Why did this person even do it? And one of the people didn't make it in, and the other person ran out screaming, ran out and then fell off of a cliff. Probably we can infer that he died. And the other person came out of the house and can only say purple waves. Purple waves is in a state hospital and had running out and blood was on his hands. So they're like, it is Halloween. It's kind of the scary story, but all three of the kids, Theo, Doug, and Turtle, all believe this. And they're like, oh, this is crazy. What a crazy story about the Westinghouse. And Turtle, we find out here that she's a little daredevil because Turtle says, make it $2 for each minute I stay in there and you're on. So Turtle's kind of betting them and saying, I'm going to go into the Westinghouse, and for every minute I stay in there, you have to give me $2. Because she thinks she can do it, and she's trying to show that she's not scared, but she wants to. So she's like this little daredevil. Now you see those dots again, so now it means it's a different point of view. Someone was spying on the group in the driveway. From the front window of apartment 2D, 15-year-old Chris Theodorakis watched his brother Theo shake hands, it must be a bet, with the skinny, one-pigtailed girl and rush into the lobby. The family coffee shop would be busy now. His brother should have been working the counter half an hour ago. Chris checked the wall clock. 2 more hours before Theo would bring up his dinner. Then he would tell him about the limper. Earlier that afternoon, Chris had followed the flight of a purple martin across the field of brambles, through the oaks, up to the red maple on the hill. The bird flew off, but something else caught his eye. Someone, he could not tell if the person was a man or a woman, came out of the shadows on the lawn, unlocked the French doors, and disappeared into the Westinghouse. Someone with a limp. Minutes later, smoke began to rise from the chimney. So Chris saw somebody go into the Westinghouse, open up the French doors, which are 2 doors that open up like this, and go in there. Couldn't really tell who it was, but this person was walking with a little bit of a limp. And then moments later, the chimney starts appearing. So someone went in there and kind of set like a fire in there, like a fire in the chimney, in the fireplace. So that's a little weird. The French doors were closed. Once again, Chris turned toward the side window and scanned the house on the cliff. The French doors were closed. Heavy drapes hung full against the 17 windows he had counted so many times. They didn't need drapes on the special glass windows here in Sunset Towers. He could see out, but nobody could see in. Then why did he sometimes feel that someone was watching him? Who could be watching him? God? If God was watching, then why was he like this? Ooh, like what? Question mark there. The binoculars fell to the boy's lap. His head jerked, his body coiled, lashed by violent spasms. Relax. Theo will come soon. Relax. Soon the geese will be flying south in a V. Canada goose, Bronta canadensis. Relax. Relax and watch the wind tangle the smoke and blow it towards Westingtown. So we know that Theo and Chris are brothers and that their family owns the coffee shop. We know that Theo works in the coffee shop and Chris either doesn't or isn't right now. We have to keep reading to find out more. We know that Chris saw somebody going into the Westinghouse, but he doesn't really know who it is. We also know that Chris had, for some reason, asked if God was watching, then why was he like this? So we have to figure out, like, what? Is there something wrong with him? We don't know yet, so we'll have to figure that out and keep that in the back of our mind as we keep reading. And then the other thing is that he needed to relax soon. He said that Theo is going to come soon, so somehow his brother calms him down. And then he says Canada goose, and then in parentheses, that is the scientific name of Canada goose. So we know that Chris is interested in birds, because I can say that's a robin, but I don't know the scientific name of that. So it's pretty interesting here that Chris really enjoys bird watching. He has these nice big picture windows. They go from floor to ceiling windows, and they don't need drapes because you can see out, but people can't see in. And just think about this for a second. How would you like to live in a place like that? You know, I have windows in the room that I'm in right now, and I have curtains on them because people can obviously see in. But what if they claim that I can see out, but people can't see in? I might still have curtains on them because I might just be scared that they could possibly see in. So how do you feel about that? Do you think you would still put curtains on there? Would it feel weird? Like you think people can still see you even though you're not supposed to be able to see in? So it's a little weird. But Chris likes it because he can do all of his bird watching, which we can tell he is an avid bird watcher because he knows all these scientific names, and that he saw something interesting. So we're going to have to keep this in mind. I'm so excited that we have started this book. We have started this book, and I can't wait to keep reading it. So like I said, if you didn't really understand chapters 1 and 2, you can watch this again. Email me with any questions, and I can't wait to read the rest of the book later in the week with you. Bye.